first assignment is going to be stamp making. I made a couple for example already, but basically like this. This one is of a star. So you'll be making a stamp with your initials that you will be putting on all your assignments from now on, so that when I fire your pieces, I know whose work is whose exactly. And you know, if I don't see a stamp on it, then I don't know whose work it was, and then it might not come back to you. So it's really important as the first step in our class. Okay, so I wrote my name right here. It's my in Japanese. Okay, and I wrote right here so that I can tell what's top, what's bottom. Okay, but there it is. Here it is. And keep in mind you have to write your initials in mirror image. Okay, so there's a little tip in being able to do that we'll go over. But here are some of the tools that are nice to have. A ruler, so you can measure the length of the coil you want to cut this to. You need a water-soluble marker, and having a little penny or a dime as a reference for size of your stamp. You don't want it any bigger than a penny, because then like your mug is just going to have this huge indent on it, and you just want enough to mark that it's your piece. So about a penny size is good. And a piece of paper, this is just computer paper that I cut up, but right here, you know, have a little bit of that. A needle tool, metal rib, and here's my paring knife. So if you don't have a paring knife or a clay cutting tool, then you can use your metal rib like a knife. Okay, so there's that. But and then having a little bit of water and your sponge is very helpful. So I think those are the basic tools we need. And then also the wire cutter to get started with your bag of clay. Okay, so let me show you how to tackle this block of clay in here. Okay, like this stuff. Okay. So basically, you're gonna open your clay up. Also, please make sure to put your name on your blocks of clay, so if you forget to put it away or something, we know whose clay it is, and then it can get back to you. Okay, so let's open this up, and this is of course wet and it's been sitting around, so there's a little mold on it, but it's fine. Take your wire tool. This is a little long to work with, so I like to wrap my hands kind of around like this, and just take it and slice your clay. And then you want to clean your wire tool afterwards by running your finger down it and removing that excessive clay off. Otherwise you get really crusty things, and the next time you try to go use it, you get all that dried up crusty clay into your wet clay. That will make working with your wet clay a nightmare. So clean your tool off, just kind of clean as you go to keep things easier. And then also another thing that's really helpful, I have just this really old plastic container with a cap, but I have a little water in it, and all these little crumbs and stuff I just throw in here because this is called slip clay slurry. Basically, it's used to put attachments onto different pottery and clay. So like a handle for a mug, like you make the cup part first, and then you have to pull the handle, and then when you attach it, use slip clay slurry like this as like a glue. So it's nice to kind of, especially if you're working at home too. The studio has a bunch of community ones, but with the whole COVID issue too, it might be nice to have your own little container like this. You know, little yogurt container works, and if you're not like moving it around too much, it doesn't even need like a proper seal on it. You can just cover it up so it doesn't dry up. But so I highly suggest you make a little thing like this. Okay, and get back to this clay slab. So boom, this peeled right off. And then, I mean, this is a lot of clay, so I like to just prop it up and do another slice in that. Okay. So this I'll just put back here, and I'm just going to work with this much. You want to keep your bags sealed nice. If you have like a bread tie, it's really good, or a rubber band, really nice to keep this sealed. Neighborhood kids are riding their bikes around. Okay, so we got this, and well, I mean, I have basically two ways you can go about it. With the example stamp right here that I made, I rolled a coil, which I will show you, and so it's circular, okay? But there's basically an instruction assignment sheet, how-to drawing that I'm also posting on Blackboard, and for that I have the two options written, like you can roll out a slab. So like this kind of is already in a nice slab shape for making a square, rectangle, stamp, if that's what you would prefer. So let me show you that method first. But you know, so if you're able to slice your clay off nicely like this, then you don't need a rolling pin to kind of, you know, stretch it out. But so it might be nice to even like kind of keep an eye on the thickness of the clay you're slicing off if you want to go this route. So with this, you still want about, you know, a penny to a dime thickness all around. It's a little smaller, but we can make this work. Smaller is fine, except when it comes to carving. And then like you're really gonna have to use those fine movements of your hand to get the nice crisp edges for a stamp. But here's that, and then we kind of want, and so, I mean, you can use those, or if you have a ruler, which, you know, always nice to measure with a ruler too, about 3/4 inch. Yeah. And then we can take the paring knife, or what you all might already immediately have is your metal rib. So I'm just going to use this as kind of a guide so I can cut a little straighter line. Okay, and please be careful handling this metal rib. I've cut my hands on it multiple times, my fingers. It is sharp. So be careful when you hold it and slice it. So, boom. Okay, there's that. But definitely easier to use a knife. Okay, so I always like making a couple extras for if I have a mess up, and then, you know, when you tear this apart, just be gentle because you don't want to warp it too much. Clay definitely has a memory, which just means that like things you do to it in its wet stage, it will know. When it dries, it will dry to that movement. It's very interesting. It's one of the fun things about working with clay. So, okay, I got that. Also, always nice to have, like, if you're working small like this, a little saran wrap or something to wrap your working bits of clay so it doesn't dry up. But, okay, here's this, and then you want about 2.5 to 3 inches in length for the clay. This high water red rock clay that is medium range clay, which just means we'll get into the temperature firing stages of the clay, but there's basically 3 different firing temperatures for different kinds of clay, and this one's cone 4 to 6 is its range, but when you fire it at cone 6, it shrinks about 12%. So keep that in mind. Things will get smaller. 12% is quite a bit. But so let me just, I'm gonna do about 3. And yeah, perfect. That's about 3. So, I mean, you don't need to make 4 extras. I usually just like to have 2, but if you know, you want to make other patterns for using as like a design element to your pieces of work that you will make in the future, then please help yourself to make different kinds. I mean, this is a lot smaller version, but I've made this stamp. It's just a little ashtray. But and then here's a little bit more detail. So I don't know if you guys are noticing, but my first language is Japanese. So a lot of my work involves history of Okinawa, which is an island that's been annexed by Japan. So about colonized island, but this is Ishiganto, which is kind of what basically is related to my work and the culture there. But that's a side note. Okay, so we got nice kind of rectangle chunks. Okay, and you know, you can kind of clean it up, make it straighter as you can. It's nice to cut the ends off, maybe not so much if you want to keep the length, but to have a nice square end. This is still a little soft, so what's nice is to basically prep this, be your stamp body, and I like to get paper, newspaper, whatever's around, kind of set it and you can, if you're gonna come back to it within like half an hour to an hour, you can just leave it out and let it stiffen a little bit till it gets to leather hard stage, okay? Because that will make it easy for you to carve. Like if you start carving right now at this stage, it's a little soft, so like you won't get the nice crisp edges, okay? And let me show you. And also, if you want to wait to cut the ends until it is leather hard, that is really helpful too. But basically, you want your surface of the stamp to be smooth and flat. And the flatter and smoother, the cleaner your stamp impressions will be on your bowls and mugs and pinch pots and coil pots and slab built trinket dishes and vases if you want to explore that part. But let's see, can you see this? Yeah. And this is if, you know, if I want basically a raised impression when I stamp. I'm just gonna do an X for an example, but it's definitely a little too soft, and if there's too much movement to it, I'm actually going a little deeper than I probably want it to. But yeah, so let this dry a little bit. If you want to prep this the day before, you definitely want to kind of wrap it up with saran wrap, and or like lightly cover it, check it. I think that's the most important thing about ceramics and clay, is that you really have to pay attention to the way it dries. So time is a big factor in working with clay, and so like every stage the timing is crucial on how neatly you're able to manipulate the material. Okay, so I can prep little square blocks like this, and you know, just put some thought in it and care into it. Also, the reason why I want you all to make like a 2.5 to 3 inches long pieces is that I definitely want you to carve your name into the side of your stamp. So if you lose your stamp, I know whose stamp it is, okay? Your classmates know whose stamp it is. And then also, it's a nice way to set up your claim on that stamp, okay? And things get lost in the ceramic studio, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so that's one method of doing the square. If you want to do a coil version, then you kind of want to take the clay you have, and I like to kind of just smush it to the length. And actually, this clay is a little stiff, but roll it. And rolling a coil it takes practice. Like if I press too hard, it creates these ridges and it doesn't work. It's not good. But I'm not gonna, take points off if you have an oval stamp. So if that's what you want, that's fine. But definitely kind of make it look pretty and put a little thought into the process. So basically the same idea, and you want it to be about a penny or a dime, and then you know, 2.5, 3 inches. That's about my finger length. So if you don't have a ruler on hand, you can kind of just use your finger. But so there's that method, and actually I'm gonna have to add a little moisture to my clay, so because this is an old bag of clay. I don't know how long your bags of clay have sat around, but if it seems a little stiff for you, you can take your sponge, get a little water, drizzle a little water on your clay, and then close it back up. But be careful, some bags do have holes in them, and then if you put too much water in it, then you have a slurry of groundwater leaking from your bag of clay, and you do not want that. It makes a mess, especially if you're working at home. Okay. So, okay. You get the idea. This is a really ugly version. I do not want you guys to make an ugly one, but just for demo purposes, I did that very quickly, but I did prepare this ahead of time that I can actually carve, because this is leather hard, and this is just kitchen wrap that I have. And, okay, let's see, you can kind of tell it's kind of stiff already. Also, try to reuse a lot of your plastics. I really do not like plastic, but don't have too much of an option when working with clay and I'm trying to maintain moisture content of the material. So reuse your plastics. Okay, so save it, have a little bin for it, however works for you. Okay, so ugly end off. Also, if you've noticed, this clay color is different because what I use in my home studio is a different color and kind of clay than what you all are using. So I brought this back from school so that I can show you how to cut the clay out of the bag, but don't be bothered too much of the color difference of this. I'm just smoothing the top now. Okay. And, that looks good. About a finger length. Gonna cut that. And also, you know, I guess this too, it's leather hard, but could be a little stiffer. That would be okay too. But you see how this is much smoother and cleaner than the hard clay demo that I just did on trying to roll a coil. But I suggest you all start practicing your coil rolling skills, because you do have a coil pot assignment coming up when you're going to have to really be rolling coils. But, all right, so here's basically a stamped body. I think this part is what we So I have that sheet of paper like this. Let me cut it up. It's a little big. Okay. There we go. And again, we want it to be about the size of a penny or a dime. A penny's a little bit bigger, which is nice to use. And then my pencil, and I like to make a circle. Okay. Well, that's a little hard to see because it's orange colored lead. But get the point. And then this is where you can write your initials if that's that works for you. If you really want to do a symbol that's unique to you, I will allow that, but you have to basically let me know what your symbol is, and then your name. Write it on a piece of paper so I can have it posted, so that when I look at that symbol, I know that it's exactly yours. Okay, so otherwise there's no point of signing it, the work, because I wouldn't know. But yeah, so that's up to you. Okay, so I'm just gonna do, what's a good letter? I can do A. Let's do, okay, I'm just gonna do my initials, okay? Chinanaimi. Because, oops. But maybe I'll give it a little snazz and offset it. Okay. Take your water soluble marker, black or dark colors preferred. This is green. This works fine for me. And boom. Okay, I got C-A written there. Chinanaimi, okay. And then your clay definitely has to be leather hard, okay, for this to work well. You want to just lightly dip the tip of your stamp, just lightly, and then give it on your sponge a little dab, because you don't want it to be super wet, but just wet enough, okay? And then on your paper that you just wrote with the water soluble marker, just press your clay in, get that stamp, rub it in gently. You don't have to press too hard, okay? And then you peel back. And so when you do that, if you use a water soluble ink, then you get the mirror image impression copy on here. Well, really nice. So if you have like this way, you don't have to like try to write your name backwards or your initials backwards. And so when you have that, then you got the thickness of the marker too, which gives it a nice crisp, area. And basically When this is at the leather hard stage, you can start gently carving. So I usually like to take a needle tool and outline it slowly and gently. And so this is when you might get little crusties that you can just kind of brush off lightly, but your clay has to be leather hard, because also you don't want to try to smooth things out. It'll just fill the carvings out again. So you just, because if you want to, like, you know, you can do a little bit and be like, this doesn't seem workable yet. I'll come back to it later. Okay, so there's the start. And then I basically used my X-Acto knife to do this detail. So that's how it's supposed to look. First letter of the Japanese hiragana alphabet. Okay. So with a little patience, you'll have a really nice stamp. And I mean, good thing is the American alphabet is not as curvy as the Japanese alphabet or letters, so it shouldn't be too difficult for you all. And then don't forget your name again. Alright, so hopefully you all understood most of this, and then when you come in for your first studio class, you'll have most of your stamp completed, and then I can assist with final touches if needed. Okay, but the stamps are due at the end of the class period. Okay, good luck.